The Empire Strikes the Galactic Empire had always viewed Earth as a small, insignificant planet. No different from the countless others they had conquered over the centuries. To them, humanity was primitive, its technology nothing more than a blip in the vast expanse of the galaxy. They saw Earth's warships as little more than toys compared to the might of the Empire's fleet. Earth, however, had other plans. General Armstrong stood on the bridge of the flagship, gazing out into the void of space. The sky above was a perfect black, scattered with the distant twinkling of stars. It was calm, but the calmness in the air was deceiving. The Empire had arrived. The Empire's fleet was massive, an imposing presence that could be seen from light years away. Earth's defenses had been preparing for this moment, but it wasn't enough. The Empire's ships were sleek, enormous, and brimming with advanced weaponry that could level entire cities. Humanity had fought many battles before, but this was different. The stakes were higher, and Earth was far from ready for the challenge. "Ahead, General, the Empire has begun their assault," Lieutenant Adams said, his voice filled with tension. He stood at his console, his hands flying over the controls, trying to keep the warship steady as the sensors picked up the incoming enemy fleet. The readouts on the screen flickered as they tried to make sense of the overwhelming power heading their way. "What's the count?" Armstrong asked, his voice steady, but his eyes betraying the anxiety that gripped him. He had faced many battles, but this was different. This wasn't just an enemy they could overpower. This was the Empire, at least 300 ships, sir, large, heavily armed. Adams replied, "They're not wasting time. They've already targeted our defense satellites." General Armstrong didn't respond immediately. Instead, he stared at the enemy fleet, now visible on the screen. The ships seemed to stretch across the horizon, a wall of cold metal and firepower. Earth's warships, though powerful in their own right, were nothing compared to the might of the Empire. But Armstrong wasn't the kind of man to back down. He had spent years preparing Earth for this moment, and now it had arrived. "Prepare the fleet for battle," Armstrong ordered. "All ships, engage the enemy on my command. We're not going to let them take us without a fight." The atmosphere aboard the flagship grew tense as the crew moved into action. The warships began to align, positioning themselves for a coordinated strike. The weapon systems powered up, and the massive engines roared to life. Earth's warships were ready, but Armstrong knew that their chances of survival were slim. They were outnumbered, and the Empire's fleet was nearly unstoppable outside. The sky was filled with the glow of the enemy ships. The Empire's fleet seemed to move as one, a seamless unit, prepared to wipe Earth off the map. As their weapons powered up, Earth's fleet fired the first shots. A volley of laser beams shot into the void, lighting up the darkness. The beams streaked through space, but the Empire's shields held firm. "Direct hit," Lieutenant Adams shouted, his voice laced with surprise. The Empire's shields didn't even budge. General Armstrong gritted his teeth. Of course they didn't. The Empire's technology was far beyond Earth's. But this wasn't just about power, this was about determination. Earth had no choice but to fight, even if the odds were against them. The enemy responded in kind. Massive energy blasts erupted from the Empire's warships, tearing through space at terrifying speeds. The first few hits landed on Earth's shields, and the warship shook violently as the energy hit. Crew members were thrown off their feet, and the lights flickered. "Shields at 70%, a technician called out from the corner of the bridge. "The enemy's firepower is overwhelming." Armstrong's grip on his chair tightened. "We're not going down without a fight. Return fire." The warships of Earth fired back with everything they had, but it was clear that their weapons were nothing compared to the Empire's advanced arsenal. The lasers fired from Earth's ships were easily deflected by the Empire's shields, and the smaller, weaker warships couldn't stand up to the Empire's heavy bombardment. "Sir, our outer defenses are failing," Lieutenant Adams said. "We've lost 2 ships in the first wave. We can't keep up with their firepower." Armstrong didn't answer immediately. His mind was racing. There had to be something, some way to turn the tide of battle. He glanced at the map, tracking the movements of the enemy ships. Earth's warships were still holding strong, but their numbers were thinning quickly. Then a flicker of movement caught his eye. A small fleet of ships, hidden behind a nearby asteroid belt, was moving toward the enemy fleet. Armstrong's heart skipped a beat. "Where did they come from?" he asked, staring at the radar screen. The ships were Earth's hidden fleet. The warping fleet, the secret weapon Earth had kept hidden for years. "Activate the warping systems. Let's show them what Earth can do," Armstrong commanded. The warping fleet had been a last-ditch effort, something Earth had secretly been developing for years. It was a technology that allowed ships to move through space at unimaginable speeds, jumping from one point to another in the blink of an eye. It was Earth's ace in the hole. If they could use it right, they might be able to hit the Empire where it hurt. "General, we're ready for warp jump," Dr. Lydia Marcus said, her voice filled with both excitement and fear. She was the scientist behind Earth's warping technology, but the coordinates are volatile. We'll need to be quick. Do it, Armstrong ordered, his voice steady. In an instant, Earth's warping fleet disappeared from the radar, slipping into another part of space. The Empire's fleet, unaware of the surprise attack, continued their assault, but then Earth's ships warped back into the fray, appearing behind the Empire's lines. Now, Armstrong shouted. With the element of surprise on their side, Earth's warships unleashed a barrage of firepower, hitting the Empire's fleet from behind. The first wave of the Empire's forces was thrown into disarray. As they tried to respond to the new threat, the tide of battle was shifting. But the Empire wasn't about to give up easily. The fight was far from over, but Earth had just made its first move, and this time, the Empire wasn't laughing. The warping edge of battle raged on. The void of space filled with the echoes of weapon fire at Earth's warships. Though smaller in number, had gained a surprising advantage with the rival of the warping fleet. The Empire, once so confident in their might, was now disoriented, trying to adapt to the sudden unpredictability of Earth's tactics. General Armstrong stood at the heart of the command center, his eyes fixed on the holographic displays in front of him. His mind was focused, but the chaos of the battlefield made it hard to think clearly. Earth's warping ships had broken through the Empire's defenses, striking from unexpected angles and making it nearly impossible for the Empire to counterattack effectively. Yet, Armstrong knew this wouldn't last long. The Empire had resources, and they wouldn't be caught off guard for long. General, the Empire's reinforcements are coming through the wormhole warships, and they're bringing heavy firepower, Lieutenant Adams reported, his voice tense. He was watching the sensors, trying to track the incoming fleet. We need to move fast, Armstrong replied, his jaw clenched. Deploy every available warping ship. Hit them from all sides. We need to keep the pressure on them. We can't let them regroup. Earth's warships, though outnumbered, continued to warp in and out of battle, catching the Empire off guard. The bright blue light of the warping technology was the only thing that could be seen, as Earth's ships blinked in and out of existence, attacking the Empire's forces with precision strikes. But as Armstrong watched the battle unfold, he couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't the Empire's true strength. The ships they had encountered so far were formidable, yes, but not invincible. The real threat, Armstrong feared, had yet to reveal itself, and then it happened. A massive wave of energy rippled through the battlefield, emanating from the heart of the Empire's fleet. It was like nothing Earth had ever seen. The energy pulse was unlike any weapon they had encountered. It tore through space, distorting the fabric of reality around it. A shockwave of destruction rippled outward, knocking Earth's warships off course. What was that? Dr. Lydia Marcus shouted, her voice filled with alarm. We've never seen energy like that before. It's destabilizing the warping tech. General Armstrong's eyes widened as the effects became clear. The warp technology that had given Earth the edge was now being disrupted. The enemy's weapon, whatever it was interfering with their ability to warp. Earth's warping ships flickered and sputtered, unable to maintain their form. It was as if the very laws of physics were being bent to the will of the Empire. They've adapted, Armstrong muttered under his breath. They've got a countermeasure. Earth's warships, now caught in the Empire's trap, struggled to regain control. The Empire's fleet, though disoriented moments ago, now had the upper hand. Their ships, large, heavily armored, began to surround Earth's fleet, closing in from all sides. We need to fall back, Adams yelled. We're losing the advantage. But Armstrong stood still, watching as the Empire's forces tightened their grip. He had been expecting this. The Empire wouldn't stay on the defensive for long. But Earth couldn't retreat. There was no place to retreat to. If they pulled back now, the Empire would crush them. No, we fight, Armstrong said, his voice cold with determination. Deploy every remaining warping ship. We have one shot. At this, he turned to his officers, their faces full of resolve. This wasn't just a fight for Earth, it was a fight for survival. General Armstrong gave the order, and one by one, Earth's remaining warping ships engaged their systems. This time, however, they wouldn't just be attacking the Empire's ships, they would be warping into the heart of their fleet. Earth's ships, though damaged, were still a force to be reckoned with. And Armstrong wasn't about to back down. As the fleet prepared for one last, desperate strike, Earth's warships warped forward once again, disappearing into the distance, only to reappear right in the heart of the Empire's formation. The battle took on a new intensity as the warping ships emerged in the most unexpected places, striking at the core of the Empire's defenses. In a moment of pure chaos, the battle turned. The Empire's massive ships, though stronger, were not designed to handle such unpredictable strikes. Earth's warping technology gave them an edge that the Empire had underestimated. The Empire's ships were forced to adjust, their movements faltering as Earth's forces took full advantage of the opening. This is it, General Armstrong muttered. watching as the Empire's forces began to fragment. "We can win this," Earth's warships pressed forward with everything they had. The once feared Galactic Empire now seemed vulnerable, their command ships rattled by the precision of Earth's strikes. But the battle was far from over. The Empire's countermeasures were still in play, and they weren't going down without a fight. A new wave of Empire reinforcements arrived, and the battle escalated once again. Armstrong's ships, though holding their ground, had taken significant damage. Earth had gained ground, but the cost of victory was rising. Earth's warping fleet was becoming less effective. As the Empire's countermeasures grew stronger, the fight for Earth's survival had reached its peak, and though they had made progress, Armstrong knew the true test was still ahead. The Galactic Empire had underestimated Earth, but now Earth had to prove it could survive this war. The tides had turned, but they would not be easy to hold. The Empire's counterattack as the battle stretched on. The true scale of the Empire's military might begin to reveal itself. For a moment, it had seemed like Earth's warping fleet had caught the Empire off guard, landing hit after hit against their massive ships. But now, Earth was facing the Empire's full wrath. The very thing that had given humanity its edge, the warping technology, was now at the center of a dangerous new arms race. The Empire was adapting faster than Armstrong could have anticipated. General Armstrong stood at the heart of the command center, his knuckles white as he gripped the edge of the command table. The walls of the room flickered with holographic displays, showing real-time battle data. The situation was rapidly worsening. Earth's warping fleet, once the element of surprise, was now slowly being neutralized by the Empire's newly developed countermeasures. "General, they've deployed a new weapon," Lieutenant Adams said urgently, his eyes glued to the screen. "It's some sort of energy disruptor. It's jamming our warp drives. If this keeps up, we won't be able to use the warping technology at all." The news hit Armstrong like a ton of bricks. The warping fleet had been their trump card, their final advantage against the overwhelming power of the Empire, and now the Empire had figured out how to neutralize it. He couldn't afford to lose that advantage. "How much time do we have before the disruptors knock out the rest of our fleet?" Armstrong asked, his voice calm but tense. "Minutes at most, sir," Adams replied. "Once we're fully in their range, it'll be impossible to warp out or back in. Our ships will be sitting ducks." "Then we need to act now," Armstrong said, his mind racing with options. "Prepare the fleet for manual combat. We'll need to rely on our weapons systems, strategy, and our wits. No more warping. We fight the old-fashioned way." The tension in the command center was palpable as the officers scrambled to prepare for the new orders. The warping fleet had been Earth's ace, but now that ace had been taken off the table. Armstrong's next move would need to be precise, calculated, and fast. Outside, the battle had reached a fever pitch. The Empire's ships, which had initially been disoriented by Earth's surprise strikes, had now fully recovered and were beginning to regroup. The vast Empire fleet, each ship brimming with powerful weaponry, was pushing Earth's forces back. The Empire's strategy was clear now. They were not only going to defeat Earth, they were going to crush them. Every ship in their fleet was now coordinated, responding to the warping fleet with ruthless efficiency. General Armstrong's mind raced through possible strategies, but each one felt like a desperate attempt to survive. He needed to outsmart the Empire. That was Earth's strength, their ability to adapt, to think outside the box. But could they do it fast enough? Then, as if fate itself was intervening, a low hum pulsed through the ship. It wasn't just any vibration, it was a signal, a code. Armstrong's mind clicked into place as the puzzle began to form. Earth wasn't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something much more. This battle was about more than just their warships. It was about proving that humanity, despite being outmatched, could stand shoulder to shoulder with the greatest powers in the galaxy. "What's that?" Adams asked, his eyes widening as the sound of the signal became clearer. "It's a beacon," Armstrong said, his voice suddenly filled with resolve. "A distress signal. It's coming from Earth." Adams was confused. "From Earth? But how?" "The Empire has blocked all communication. It's not a traditional signal. It's coming from the Black Fleet." Armstrong's words hung heavy in the air. The Black Fleet, the mysterious, unknown ally that had once fought beside Earth's forces in secret. Could they be the key to Earth's survival? Could they have returned just in time? "Prepare the fleet for reinforcements," Armstrong ordered, his voice steady. "Activate all communication channels with the Black Fleet. We need them now." More than ever, the officers in the command center moved quickly. But there was no guarantee the Black Fleet would answer. The Empire's disruptive technology could be jamming everything, including the very signal they were trying to send. But Armstrong knew one thing: Earth had fought this hard, and they weren't about to lose without a fight. If the Black Fleet was still out there, they were Earth's last hope. As the Black Fleet's ships appeared on the outer edges of the battle, they shimmered with an almost ethereal glow. They were unlike any ships in Earth's fleet, sleek and deadly with advanced technology that the Empire had never seen. The Black Fleet's ships warped into the battle at precisely the right moment. Striking with devastating force, their appearance was like a miracle, unpredictable, swift, and powerful. The Empire's forces, still reeling from Earth's earlier strikes, were caught completely off guard. The Black Fleet moved as a singular unit, each ship moving in perfect coordination. Their weapons, unlike anything Earth had, disintegrated the Empire's outer defenses with pinpoint precision. The Empire's ships tried to respond, but the Black Fleet was too fast, too overwhelming. Earth's warships, previously at the mercy of the Empire's superior numbers, now had the upper hand. They've come to our aid, Lieutenant Adams breathed, watching the battlefield shift in real time. This is it, General, we're turning the tide. The battle raged on. But now Earth's forces were no longer fighting alone, with the Black Fleet by their side. The balance of power shifted. The Empire's once indomitable fleet was now scrambling, trying to adapt to the unexpected reinforcements. But no matter how many ships the Empire sent, the Black Fleet kept pushing forward, breaking through their defenses like a hot knife through butter. As the Empire's forces began to retreat, General Armstrong allowed himself a moment of relief. This wasn't over yet. There were still battles to fight, but Earth had proven something today. They were not a joke, they were a force to be reckoned with. We've won the first battle, Armstrong said, his voice calm yet filled with pride. But we must remain vigilant. The war is far from over. As Earth's warships and the Black Fleet moved forward, the Empire was left to regroup. Their defeat today was only the beginning of something much bigger, and Armstrong knew that the galaxy would soon see that Earth would never back down again. The reckoning as the remnants of the Empire's fleet began to scatter into the depths of space. The victory felt fragile. Earth had managed to hold its own, thanks in part to the timely intervention of the Black Fleet, but General Armstrong knew better than to celebrate too soon. This was not just a battle, this was a war, and the Empire would not retreat quietly. The Black Fleet, though a powerful ally, left just as mysteriously as it had arrived. No one knew who commanded them, or what their true intentions were. They had saved Earth, but Armstrong wasn't sure if that meant the galaxy had gained an ally or just a temporary partner in this struggle. The truth was, the Black Fleet's appearance raised more questions than answers. Had they come solely to help Earth, or were they manipulating the situation for their own reasons? As Earth's warships regrouped, Armstrong watched the final waves of the Empire's retreating fleet disappear into the stars. The battle was won, but the aftermath felt like the calm before a much larger storm. Earth had survived. But for how long, and more importantly, was this the Empire's final attempt? Or was it merely a setback for a much greater conquest? General, we've received a transmission from Earth's leadership, Lieutenant Adams said. Breaking Armstrong's thoughts, the transmission was encrypted. But it was clear that Earth's leaders wanted to assess the situation. There, asking for a report on the current status, Armstrong turned to face his officers. The mood in the command center was somber. Despite the victory, the galaxy, once vast and distant, now seemed too close, too real. He had always believed that Earth was small, insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but now, standing in the wake of the battle, he realized that Earth had not just defended itself, it had set a precedent. A declaration that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Prepare the report, Lieutenant. Make sure they know what we've accomplished and what's still at stake. As Adams nodded and began drafting the message, Armstrong took one last look at the battlefield. The stars beyond Earth's orbit seemed far away, but for the first time, they felt reachable. The Empire's defeat was significant, yes, but Armstrong couldn't shake the feeling that something larger was waiting on the horizon. Something far worse than what they had just faced. The first true signs of that larger force began to appear. Moments later, General, we're receiving strange energy readings. Something massive is approaching from deep space. Dr. Lydia Marcus's voice was filled with urgency. It's unlike anything we've seen before. We've detected an energy signature that matches no known species or technology. Armstrong's chest tightened. He had been expecting more from the Empire. They had underestimated Earth. But what if their retreat wasn't the end? What if this was the beginning of a new galactic threat, a force that had been watching Earth's victory and was now preparing to strike back? How long until we make contact? Armstrong asked, his voice low. Not long, Dr. Marcus replied. They're moving at an unimaginable speed. I've never seen anything like it. It's something beyond even the Empire's capabilities. A cold shiver ran down Armstrong's spine. The Empire, though powerful, had been only one enemy in a galaxy full of them. But what was coming now, whatever it was, Earth would need more than just military might to survive. They would need to outthink and outlast whatever was approaching. As the energy readings grew stronger, a sudden voice broke through the tension. of the room, General Armstrong, Lieutenant Adams said, looking up from his screen. It's the Black Fleet. They're broadcasting a signal to Earth. They're giving us a warning. A warning? Armstrong asked, confused. Yes, sir. They say the galaxy has taken notice of Earth's strength. What follows will be a true test of humanity's place among the stars. Armstrong's mind raced as the implications hit him. The Black Fleet wasn't just allies. They were something more, perhaps observers or even enforcers of some larger galactic order. Earth's victory over the Empire had caught the attention of forces far beyond the reach of even the most powerful empires. The galaxy was watching, and the battle for Earth's survival was far from over. Get me the leadership team from Earth, Armstrong ordered. We need to know what this message means and what we're up against next. The situation was becoming more complicated by the second. The Empire's defeat was only the first chapter in a story that was still being written. But as Armstrong prepared to communicate with Earth's leaders, he couldn't help but wonder who else was out there in the galaxy watching. And what would they do now that Earth had proven itself worthy of their attention? A new chapter in humanity's place among the stars was about to begin. One that would test Earth's strength, resolve, and capacity to adapt like never before. Asterisk the silent observer as the energy readings intensified. General Armstrong's grip tightened on the railing in front of him. His mind was racing. What was coming? The Black Fleet's message had been clear but ominous. Earth's victory had been noticed. But at what cost? Now, the galaxy's eyes were on Earth, and its next test was approaching. Armstrong could feel it in the air, a deep, unsettling quiet that surrounded their fleet. General, we're receiving more data from the Black Fleet, Lieutenant Adams reported. His voice laced with uncertainty. They've intercepted the approaching fleet. It's not just one ship, it's a whole armada. Armstrong's heart skipped a beat. An armada? He looked at the map displayed in front of him, the vastness of space laid out in geometric grids. The readings were unlike anything Earth had encountered before. Ships that massive weren't just out there, they were heading straight for them. What's their course? Armstrong asked, keeping his voice calm, though his mind was anything but. It's coming fast, General. And they're on a direct path to Earth. The Black Fleet is holding their position waiting for instructions. The silent weight of those words hung in the air. The Black Fleet had been a powerful ally in Earth's defense, but now, it seemed like Earth's next challenge would be faced alone. The Empire had underestimated them. But the new fleet, whatever it was far more mysterious and perhaps more dangerous. Alert the fleet. Armstrong's orders were sharp. We won't sit and wait. Prepare for battle stations, but hold off on firing. We need to understand what we're facing. The crew worked quickly, scanning every angle of space for signs of the incoming fleet. Armstrong stepped back, running a hand through his hair. This was not a situation they could simply fight their way out of. Earth had won the first battle. But this would be different. The stakes had changed, and now Earth had to prove itself. In a way it never had before. General, we've intercepted their communication. Dr. Lydia Marcus's voice was steady, though her face was pale. They're not saying much. It's encrypted, but there's one phrase that's repeated over and over. It says, the trial begins. Armstrong's breath caught in his throat. The trial? He had no idea what that meant, but he could feel the shift in the air, whatever this was. It wasn't just a fight, it was a judgment. Earth was being tested in ways they hadn't prepared for. What do we know about this fleet? Armstrong asked. Dr. Marcus quickly brought up a visual display. The fleet wasn't just large, it was massive. The ships had no known designation, no markings that Earth sensors could identify. They were sleek, metallic, and almost seamless, reflecting the light of nearby stars in a way that made them look like shadows. Rather than solid objects, these weren't the Empire's ships. They weren't even anything remotely familiar. They're unlike anything we've ever seen, Dr. Marcus continued. The technology is. It's like they don't belong in this galaxy. It's far more advanced than anything we could imagine. The weapons, they're almost too sophisticated to comprehend. Too sophisticated? Armstrong asked. What does that mean? It means that their weapons are not designed for battle, they're designed for control. The energy signatures, Dr. Marcus hesitated, glancing at the readings. They seem to be testing Earth's responses, almost like they're measuring how we fight, how we act under pressure. Armstrong's eyes narrowed. The Empire had been a known enemy, a force that could be fought, understood, and eventually defeated. But this new force wasn't here for war. They weren't here to conquer Earth. They were here for something else. What do they want? Armstrong asked aloud, more to himself than anyone else. But the question hung in the air, the unknown. Fleet wasn't showing aggression, it was observing, watching. As the fleet neared Earth's defenses, an overwhelming calm swept over the battlefield. Earth's warships stood ready, but their weapons remained silent. The Empire's defeat had given Earth a moment of glory, but now, this unknown force was taking center stage. The sense of anticipation was unbearable. Armstrong felt his heart beat faster as the mysterious fleet came into range. Suddenly, without warning, a loud hum filled the air, sending a vibration through the entire ship. A long beam of light shot out from the approaching armada and shot straight through space, targeting Earth's warships. "General, shields up!" Lieutenant Adams shouted, his voice panicked. "They're firing!" But the beam didn't strike any of Earth's ships. Instead, it hovered in front of them. Stopping just short of hitting their hulls, the beam pulsated, its energy swirling, as if analyzing the warships. Then, without any visible warning, the beam vanished. The fleet, too, simply stopped moving, suspended in space, watching Earth, waiting. "What just happened?" Adams asked, his voice shaking. "They've just tested our shields," Dr. Marcus said, still staring at the readings. "They've scanned us, measured us, and now they want something else." The Black Fleet's message began to echo in Armstrong's mind. "The galaxy has taken notice of Earth's strength. What follows will be a true test of humanity's place among the stars." Earth wasn't just fighting for survival. This wasn't just another battle. The test had begun. The universe had spoken, and now, Earth's fate depended on how they faced what was to come. "General, we're receiving another transmission from the fleet," Lieutenant Adams said, his voice now filled with dread. "Put it through," Armstrong ordered. His mind alert, his eyes steely. The transmission flickered to life. The same deep, resonant voice echoed through the comm system. "Humanity," the voice boomed, "you have been observed. The trial begins now. Prove your worth. Survive." The transmission cut out as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving Earth's fleet in silence. "This is it," Armstrong said under his breath. "We're being judged." The Empire's threat had been immediate, obvious, but this was something else entirely. Earth was now caught in a game far larger than anything they could have imagined. It wasn't just survival, it was a trial. A test of humanity's worth in the vast, unpredictable galaxy. And the unknown forces, whatever they were, had just set the stage for the real war to begin. Asterisk, the test of humanity. General Armstrong stood frozen, his eyes locked on the stars outside the bridge of his flagship. The message from the mysterious fleet echoed in his mind. "Prove your worth. Survive." It wasn't a demand for war, it was a challenge. The voice, so deep and authoritative, had not threatened Earth directly. It had not made any hostile moves, only offered the cryptic words that now lingered in the air, heavy with meaning. What did it mean to prove their worth? Was Earth being tested for its strength, its intelligence, or its ability to survive? In the vast and dangerous galaxy, Armstrong paced in front of the command table, his boots tapping softly against the deck. The room was quiet, except for the occasional hum of machinery and the voices of his officers whispering among themselves. Tension was thick in the air. Everyone on board knew this was far from a typical battle. This was different, and they were about to face something far greater than just the Empire. "General," Lieutenant Adams said, his voice interrupting Armstrong's thoughts, "the fleet has stopped. They're holding their position. The readings are strange. It's almost like they're waiting for something." Armstrong nodded, his face serious. The fleet had done nothing but hover in space since their strange attack. No more blasts. No more signs of aggression, just waiting. "What's their next move?" Armstrong asked, but Adams only shook his head. "There was no answer, sir. They're not transmitting anything anymore," Dr. Lydia Marcus said, turning from her console. "We've been trying to establish contact, but there's no response. Whatever this is, it's beyond anything we've encountered before. It's as if they're observing." The silence weighed heavily on Armstrong's chest. "Observing," he muttered under his breath. The unsettling calmness of their presence was like the eye of a storm, to quiet before something far more dangerous hit. "General," Adams spoke again, this time more urgently. "We've received another message from the Black Fleet. They've detected the same energy signals we've been picking up. They say it's not a weapon, but something far worse. A trial," Armstrong repeated, a cold chill creeping down his spine. It seemed that the Black Fleet was just as uncertain as they were. Were they being tested? Or was Earth being manipulated in a game they couldn't comprehend? Dr. Marcus stepped forward. "It's possible that they're gauging our ability to withstand the unknown. Perhaps Earth is being judged for something much greater than its military might. They could be evaluating how we adapt, how we survive in these conditions. But why now?" Armstrong asked. Why did they wait until after the Empire was defeated to make their move? There was no answer, only the cold hum of the ship's systems. It was clear Earth was on trial, but for what? The galaxy was filled with ancient forces, and Earth had only begun to scratch the surface. Armstrong knew the answers they sought were far beyond anything they had ever imagined. Suddenly, the ship's sensors began to beep rapidly. The holographic displays flashed as new readings came in. "Sir, we have something new on the radar," Adams said, his voice filled with disbelief. Something is moving toward us at incredible speed, too fast for anything we've seen. It's coming from the heart of the fleet. Before Armstrong could respond, the entire fleet trembled. It wasn't just a jolt, this felt different. Almost like an invisible hand had pressed against their warships. The sensation rippled through the ship's hull like an energy field being tested. Armstrong gripped the railing tightly, feeling the power beneath his feet. What was that? Dr. Marcus asked, her voice now shaky. The ship is reacting to something. But there's no sign of anything in our scans. The energy readings fluctuated wildly on the screens as the unknown force made its way closer. Whatever it wasn't visible to their sensors, but they could feel it, and it was coming for them, General. Adams said, his voice now filled with urgency. There's something massive right outside our range. It's like it's adapting to our defenses. The quiet hum of the enemy fleet grew louder. The ships now seemingly pulsating with energy. Earth's warships stood motionless, caught in an invisible vice. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't seem to break free of the intense pressure. The sensation was like being pulled into something far greater than their control. Suddenly, a massive wave of energy rippled through space, emanating from the core of the mysterious fleet. The power was so immense, it caused Earth's warships to shudder violently. It wasn't an attack, it was a demonstration of power. Armstrong's eyes widened. The unknown fleet had sent a warning. It was as if they were reminding Earth of its place in the galaxy, a small speck in the vast unknown, but Earth had already made its mark. General Armstrong had seen the resilience in his people, their drive to survive against impossible odds. This wasn't just about defeating enemies. It was about surviving what they couldn't understand. They're testing us, Armstrong said aloud, his voice resolute. But we won't break. We're Earth, we fight. Just as the pressure reached its peak, the energy wave suddenly stopped. The ships around Earth's fleet resumed their eerie silence, hovering like specters in the void of space. But Armstrong knew that this was far from over. The trial had only just begun. The challenge was not just about fighting for survival, it was about facing something greater than anything Earth had ever known. The mysterious fleet. The power they wielded, it was all part of something larger than Earth could comprehend. Armstrong knew that this test would shape humanity's place in the galaxy. If they could survive, they would prove that Earth had a place among the stars. But first, they had to face the unknown. The galaxy was full of mysteries, and Earth was only just beginning to discover what lay beyond the stars. The cosmic trial atmosphere on Earth's flagship was thick with uncertainty. General Armstrong stood before the command table, his mind reeling from the bizarre and unsettling events that had unfolded over the last few hours. The mysterious fleet's immense power, the way it had tested Earth without a single shot being fired, it was clear that this was no ordinary battle. The alien presence had far more at stake than Earth's survival. This was about something much deeper, something more profound. Earth was being tested not just as a planet, but as a species. General, we're receiving another transmission from the fleet, Lieutenant Adams said, his voice filled with tension. It's not encrypted, but it's different this time. Armstrong turned sharply, his gaze narrowing. He had expected this. The silence that had hung over the battlefield was broken now, and he knew that the next words from the unknown fleet would carry the weight of their intentions. Put it through, Armstrong ordered, his voice calm but edged with anticipation. The transmission came in as a calm, almost melodic hum that slowly shifted into a distinct voice, one that was clear and deeply resonant. It wasn't a voice that echoed through the ship's speakers. It felt as if it was coming from within their minds, as if the entire fleet was listening. Not with their ears, but with their very souls. Humanity, the voice began, and Armstrong felt the words ripple through him, as though each syllable carried the weight of 1,000 years of history. You stand at the edge of the galaxy, not as a conqueror, but as a witness. The words echoed through the command center, every crew member standing frozen in awe. The voice continued, each sentence heavier than the last. You have demonstrated strength, but strength alone does not define survival. The galaxy is vast, and you are but a fledgling species. Your kind is young, and you are fragile. But you have the potential to become something greater. Armstrong's breath caught in his throat. This was no typical declaration of war. This was an invitation, a challenge. The fleet wasn't just testing Earth's military prowess. They were testing humanity itself. We will not stand by as your species destroys itself. The voice continued, but we will not shield you from the trials ahead. Only those who prove their worth shall be allowed to advance. Others will fade into nothingness. The silence that followed was deafening. Armstrong could feel the weight of the galaxy's judgment pressing down on them. Earth wasn't just being judged for its ability to defend itself, it was being judged for its very place in the universe. A place among countless other species, all vying for survival in a galaxy far older and more powerful than Earth had ever imagined. What are these trials? Armstrong's voice broke through the silence, though it felt small compared to the immense force of the alien transmission. How can we prove our worth if we don't know what we're facing? The voice responded with a strange calm, almost as if it was acknowledging the futility of Earth's questioning. The trials will come in time, General Armstrong. The first trial is already underway. You will face your greatest challenges, not with weapons, but with your minds and your hearts. The transmission ended abruptly, leaving a cold, eerie silence behind. Earth's fleet stood suspended in space, uncertain of what to do next. The crew members exchanged nervous glances, unsure of what they had just heard. This was no simple battle. This was something far greater. General, what does it mean? Dr. Lydia Marcus asked, her voice trembling with a mix of fear and curiosity. They didn't specify what the trials are. We don't know what we're facing. We face what we've always faced, Armstrong said, his voice steady but filled with a new resolve. The unknown. He turned to face the holographic map of the galaxy, his finger tracing the path of the mysterious fleet as it disappeared into deep space. They were no longer just a planet with a defense force, they were a species being scrutinized, watched by powers beyond their comprehension. And whatever happened next would decide their place in the universe. The fleet's sudden silence wasn't a relief, it was a challenge. Armstrong knew that whatever came next would test every fiber of humanity. The trial was beginning, but what would it require? Prepare the fleet for whatever comes next, Armstrong ordered, his voice resolute. We don't know what the trial is, but we will face it, and we will survive. Earth has always survived. As the fleet readied itself, Armstrong couldn't shake the sense that they were being watched. The galaxy was full of ancient powers, and humanity had just been thrust into their sight. But there was something else, something deeper. A nagging feeling that the test wasn't just about the military or even survival. It was about something far more fundamental. We've survived this far, but now we have to prove we belong in this galaxy, Armstrong thought to himself as the warships prepared, and whatever that trial is, we'll face it together.